We're so excited to have Tangerine back for this special private screening tonight. We celebrated the work of Sean Baker earlier this year, and we're able to show this film as well here at Lincoln Center. So it's really exciting to have the film back and to have Sean and Mya Taylor here in a conversation that I'll moderate after the discussion. But before we do that, we have a very special guest who's going to introduce this screening. So please join me in welcoming Laverne Cox.
Thank you so much, darling. How's everybody doing tonight?
Great.
I am so honored to be here tonight to introduce and to celebrate this film, Tangerine. As an actress and a proud transgender woman of color, I've often looked to representations in the media, to film, to television, for images that represent me, that reflect who I am and my experience. And far too often I've not seen those representations. I have not seen those images. And when I saw Tangerine for the first time earlier this year, I saw something that reflected a lot of the truths that I have come to understand as a Black transgender woman living in New York City, although this film is set in Los Angeles. And I was just talking to Sean Baker and Mya Taylor. Sean is the director and Mya is one of the stars, in the green room about so many of the wonderful details you're going to see in this film about what it's really like to be a trans woman of color living in the United States today. Because Mya and Kiki, the two stars of this film, were so involved in helping to tell and construct this story. There's so much truth that you're going to witness in this film that is raw and hilarious and I find deeply moving. So I hope you enjoy Tangerine as much as I do. And if you're Academy members, please vote. I think it's amazing that the very first Oscar campaign has been launched for the stars of this film. Let's make some noise for that. One last thing I'll say, not to be self-absorbed, but I'm on a show called Orange is the New Black. Have you heard of that show? And so I was nominated for a Primetime Emmy last year, and that was not only a big deal for me, it was a sort of a dream come true, but it was a really big deal for transgender people all over this country and the world. Apparently I'm the first trans woman to be nominated for an Emmy in an acting category, and I've gotten to meet so many trans people who found such a sense of inspiration and possibility because of that moment. And I often like to imagine what would it be like for trans people all over this country and the world if a trans woman is nominated for an Academy Award. Academy members, you have the chance to make that happen this year. So do it. And enjoy Tangerine.
So great to have Tangerine back on screen at Lincoln Center for this one special private screening.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here.
It's fun.
I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then I want to let the audience have a chance to ask you some questions about what might be on their mind. But we were talking a little bit earlier about the broader concept of, I guess for lack of a better word, Laverne referenced this in the introduction, authenticity.
Yeah.
I think, Mya, it would be really interesting to hear from your perspective. Well, maybe let me take a half step back. Tell me about the first time you met Sean Baker.
You know, that's always the worst question because everybody asks me that all the time. But you know, I'm going to tell you guys because I love you guys. Okay, so let me tell you. So the T is that, the T is that one day I was sitting outside the LGBT Center on Santa Monica and McAdam. And I was just talking with my friends and everything. And then there was this really, really cute white guy from like way across the room. And he started walking towards, bitch, he's coming, girl, he's coming. And he came up to me and he was like, so do you know anything about this area? Like, I'm doing some research on like my next project. And I want to know like some information about this area. And I was like, oh, well, sure. So I started telling him about like
You said "oh sure" from the beginning, or
yeah, you know, he wanted to know information, so I gave it to him. I mean,
it was immediate. It's funny because on the other end, Chris Bragash, who co-wrote the screenplay with me, we were on the other side of the courtyard going, oh my gosh, look at her. You know, she has this aura about her. She's the one we have to talk to. And so we approached her like we were approaching somebody at a school dance. You know? And, but yeah, the minute we got over there was this immediate, I guess, the enthusiasm that we felt from Mya really just, it was like that eureka moment where like, I think we found somebody who's going to help us and be our passport and may even work with this person in terms of, you know, we may cast her, who knows.
So authenticity. You build this rapport with someone who wants to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about how your own experiences and those of people around you shaped what we see in the film.
Well, let's go back a little bit. From the beginning, I told Sean, you know, if I'm going to help you with this project and you're going to do it about this area, then I need for this to be as real as possible. I need for this to be raw, no condom. We're talking about the movie, though. Yeah, so, my own experiences, I used to be a sex worker. I did. But my character is very different from me in real life. Because in real life, I'm always like this. I'm never that grimy, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've always been like this, you know? I think the only thing that I can relate to her with is the humor. Because I'm a funny person. You know, I love to see people happy and laughing because I've had such a dark life. So I want to see happiness. And even though the storyline is so dark, I didn't want a room of like crying people, you know? I feel like when you're in situations like that, all you have is humor and to try to really uplift yourself.
And it takes a lot of strength to want to share that humor through all the tough things that you or people around you might have experienced.
Yeah.
Tell me about your thought process as you opened up your world, your life, your ideas to Sean and to people involved with this film that we would eventually see on the screen.
My thought process, meaning,
Like, were you
scared?
Yeah.
No, I'm never scared of anything. No, she's never scared. No, except when it comes to roaches. I'm scared of them. Yeah, but, you know, other than that, I don't be scared of anything. Like, I'm pretty much an open book.
Has that always been the case?
Yeah, I've always been like that. And, like, as far as, like, you know, playing this over, like, you know, like, in real life, like, sex work and everything, like, putting it on screen and everything, it didn't affect me mentally or anything like that because, I don't know, it just, I'm numb to, like, pain and everything. It doesn't really bother me anymore. Yeah, I'm not saying, like, you know, if somebody says something mean about me, of course that's going to hurt my feelings, but eventually I'll just brush it off.
So what is the process of now sharing the film over the past number of months? It's almost been a year now since it played at Sundance.
Mm-hmm.
What has that process been like for you over this almost past year, being out with the film, talking about it, engaging people, answering questions, talking about your life? Has that gotten easier or harder over that period of time, or about the same?
When I first started to actually, like, explain in front of audiences like this, you know, about, like, my life, to go into detail about it, I would sometimes start to get emotional, then I have to pull back because it makes me, like, it does make me sad to know that I had to go through all of that because I grew up with, like, a horrible family. I didn't live with my mom or anything like that. I didn't really know anything about my mom when I was growing up. I did, but I didn't. My grandparents kept us away from it because my grandparents were very evil and took us away from our mom. And they did it for financial reasons and things like that. And my brother and sister and I were treated horribly when I was growing up, and especially me because they knew that I was different.
Where was
so
this?
that was when I was in Texas. I grew up in Texas. Then when I was 18, I moved to LA, and I had a family member that introduced me to the street life. And nowadays, you know, she's a multimillionaire now, but I was left in the streets homeless. So yeah, there's just so much behind that, but we're not here for all of that right now.
Has your relationship with the people from your life, from your family, changed as a result of your the awareness for this film, your fame, the attention the movie has gotten?
The people in my life, like my family, well, I deal with my real mom now, and she loves me. She actually gave me the name Mya. We took it from my former name. Ooh, this better not leave this room. Jeremiah. We took it from my former name. Yeah.
I want to switch gears for a moment and ask Sean a question about. There's a lot of filmmakers, creative people in the room. I want to ask Sean a question that then Mya can pick up on from a different perspective. You famously shot this movie on an iPhone. Talk about creatively the decision to do that. What kind of opportunities, freedoms, challenges it may have offered you guys, and then I want Mya to sort of follow up with talking about how that affected you as a performer in the film, whether that made it easier or tougher as well.
Okay. Well, yeah, it definitely stemmed from just a budgetary constraint. I had less than half of the budget I had from my previous film, Starlit, and we had to cut costs somewhere, and we started looking into the camera department. I'm out of favors, so I can't get somebody to lend me any cameras anymore. So we set down that road, but I think subconsciously I was kind of knowing that there's something about this communication device that happens to have a camera on it that would loosen people up, because it's not shoving a camera in this person's face, and especially if they're a non-professional. And I'm not talking about Mya or Kiki. I consider them professional and first-time actors.
You better.
But I'm talking about the people on the street, some of the supporting characters who were literally on the street, and we asked them to be part of this film. Putting an iPhone up to them and shooting really changes the entire atmosphere, and it really just there's no I would say intimidation factor, because they own one themselves. It's not like this elitist machine that's capturing. It feels very different. If you saw us from across Santa Monica shooting, you wouldn't know we're shooting. The biggest giveaway that we were any sort of professional production was our sound gear. So we were able to shoot clandestinely. We were able to capture candid moments, and I think that helped me a lot, even with just freeing me up. And that's why the film has a lot more movement than my previous films, and a lot more just energy, I think, because we were able to move fast. We were able to do things in an impromptu way, like impromptu crane shots and stuff. So, yeah.
And so kind of the same question to you, Mya, speaking on your own behalf, but on the behalf of the other actors in the film. How did you relate to this device being kind of turned into this means of capturing this experience in a movie? Not only could you have these more intimate scenes, like whether it's in the donut time or other places, I imagine it would have an impact on how you guys were able to relate to each other, or maybe not, I don't know.
At first I was like, child, this is so ghetto.
Exactly
That
what she said
I
to
really
me.
did. But, it turned into something really great. I mean, people ask me, did it make it easier? Being this is my first movie. And, I've been singing my whole life, but I never did acting. I wanted to, but it comes natural for me. But singing is much harder. But we'll get into that later. So people ask me, did it, bother me, or was it easier or anything? And I'm like, no. I feel like it's the same. I mean, there's a Sony camera right here in front of my face, and I have not looked at it once. I mean, it's obvious. Don't stare at the fucking camera. Yeah.
Now you have to look right into the camera for people watching at home. Well, let me see I have a couple more questions, but let me just engage the audience. And, this is a private, intimate screening. It's meant to be an opportunity for you to engage with the artists. Many people here, as I mentioned, are creative people themselves. What kind of questions do you guys have? What direction do you want to go with this conversation? And please join the conversation. Feel comfortable weighing in. Hi.
Hi, yeah. Sean, I know that a lot has been made of the filming style and everything, but I also know that it all starts with the script, and you were talking a little bit about your first trip to that area to learn, to do research and learn what you
Last
could.
year.
But I'm interested in what first got you interested in telling the story in particular.
Question about what got you interested in telling the story in particular.
Well, this the exact story, we had no idea what we were. All I knew is that I wanted to tell a story about Santa Monica and Highland, and I live about a half a mile from there. I knew it would involve sex work because the area is known for that, and maybe it was my previous film had that as a theme as well. So maybe this was just we didn't get it out of our system, and we wanted to explore another aspect of it. But it was definitely this. I'm originally a New Yorker, and I moved out to LA 5 years ago, and I've just found all these neighborhoods and just microcosms that I've been very interested in, and I was sort of taken aback by how little they've been shown in film and television by the industry. And this was one of them, and it was right in the heart between West Hollywood and Hollywood, right there, and it seemed like, why hasn't there been more told about this area? And so it was really Chris Burgash, who co-wrote the screenplay with me. We were, we're two cisgender white guys from outside that world, so we did not want to in any way go in there with a script. We wanted to figure it out once we immersed ourselves. The only thing that I did know is that there was going to be a climactic confrontation at donut time. That's the only thing we knew, because donut time is such a landmark. So it was really we started around I believe 10 months or 9 months out from shooting, and it was it was getting to know Maya, and then Maya introducing us to her friends, and then introducing us eventually to Kiki, and just really immersing ourselves, and always going through an approval process. When we finally figured out what our A plot would be, the search for Dinah, we then wrote our treatment, and we gave that treatment to Maya and Kiki to approve and get notes from. And then we went into workshops, and workshops very similar to what I've read Mike Lee does. I don't know exactly, but it's sort of that similar style where we have a bunch of dialogue, but I go, let's go into a room together and let's all start improvising and trying to figure out these scenes, and then transcribing what we recorded, and eventually getting to the point where we have like a 70-page script. And then just, but still continuing even on set to always look to Maya and Kiki and others to ask them if what we're capturing is authentic, if we're, if the vernacular is correct, etc. And then even in post, Maya actually did step away. She said, I wanted to see the final cut. But it was Kiki who actually, every time I would edit about 10 minutes, I would give her a call, and she would come over to the apartment and check it out and give me notes. And her notes were great and very, very useful, and really set me on the right path a couple of times. So that's really, hope I answered that question.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, who else wants to? I can sort of see some of you, but the light's really bright.
Come on, I know there's more questions.
Yes, Crystal has a question.
Crystal, congratulations.
Congratulations to you, because I love your movie.
This is the second time I didn't see it on a big screen before, so it's really fun.
Oh.
And see you. What's next for you? And congratulations on the Gotham.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
The film won 2 Gotham Awards, Maya won.
Yeah, I would love
Next
to
for
know.
me is on the 12th, I go back to LA. Well, I'll be back in LA in 2 days, but then I go home, and then I go back on the 12th to film my new short, and it's called Diane from the Moon. And she's a trans pagan priestess who's trying to fight her way to acceptance. She's constantly being tormented by this man named Tex. So you'll see how I get to deal with him. Yeah. I'm also working on developing my own TV show because I have a story that needs to be told. But I do want it to be humorous, very, and I want it to be very educational to like a lot of people, a lot of different types of people. Pretty much everybody's life would be able to relate to the script. So. Yeah, that's what I'm working on. Thank you.
Maya, I want to ask you a follow-up question to what Sean was just talking about. Tell us a bit about the development process of the story, from story to script in this particular case. The conversations you had with Sean and company, and how those translated to what we see on screen, but then the process Sean was talking about, the development process that happened in the editing and ultimately in the final, when you saw that final
Well,
version?
the reason why I didn't want to see it before it was done was because I had my insecurities about, I just started my transition at that time. And I was like, I was always insecure about, what I looked like. I was always wearing shades all the time to always cover up my face in the daytime and at nighttime because I was so insecure about the way I looked, and I didn't want to get figured out, even though of course I did, but but it's like it's not a good feeling when somebody points it out or something. I mean, it doesn't happen to me nowadays, but back then, oh yeah, people would try to light me up. I got into so many fights because of that. But okay, what was your other question?
I would love to hear you talk about
Some of the stories.
some of the creative process and sort of what you took from that process. Again, not just being on screen, but in sharing the stories with Sean that would end up being developed into the script.
Well, I talked to Sean about a lot of personal stuff. We got so deep into everything. I mean, deep, like into everything about like past. I mean, I don't think it's appropriate to be talking about it in this room, but I can tell you some things that are more appropriate. Like the time when I was walking down the street, la da 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 da, and then I saw this girl, like she was doing work, like she was working. I was off at that time. It was my time to be off. She was doing work, and a car had drove by and just threw like a cup of piss out at her. Yeah, I've seen them just come by and throw eggs out at girls and stuff like that. I've had to run from drive-bys and stuff like that. Like it's really scary. Like some of these things I experienced myself. The time where I just moved to LA and then I just got into sex work and everything. And this guy, he drives me all the way to Griffith Park, and after he paid me, he robbed me. And yeah, it was really, really, really scary. Because first of all, I'm in Griffith Park, like I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I don't know what this is. And yeah, he robbed me. So I guess that's like what we can relate to in the scene where I have to fight with the guy about my money. Like, give me my money, because this isn't going to happen to me again. So, yeah. It was stories like that.
Let's see what else the audience. We have a few more minutes, but I know there's more questions here, so please
Come on,
feel
where are the
comfortable.
questions at? Come on, ask
There we
me
go.
anything.
There we go.
I saw it at Sundance at first, the first time seeing it since then, but everyone loved it a lot then, and everyone came home and wrote about it. And I'm wondering how people back home, Santa Monica, and I forget the name of the cross street, thought about the movie when they saw it, and people who may have experienced a lot of things that we saw on screen.
Question is about the response to the film on the corner of Santa Monica and Highland.
A lot of the people there, they're really proud of the film because it does show, what really, really happens, what it is like to live in the life of a trans person on Santa Monica and Highland. Because I can't say every transgender person does not do sex work. Just get that straight. And every trans person that you saw in the movie did not do sex work. Some of them were working, but I'm not going to blow that and tell you who did it. Yeah, a lot of them love it because it's like it is telling the truth about everything, but it's also done in a humorous way. It's entertaining at the same time, which is what I wanted. I wanted it to be funny and true.
We've had a very positive response, and a lot because the ArcLight cinemas are very located pretty closely to Santa Monica and Highland. Many of the almost every one of our supporting actors have now been able to see it, and people from the area have been able to see it. And it was really, and I have to say, it was really a conversation I had with Mya early on that really, I think, pushed us to making more of a overt comedy. Originally, it was supposed to be a dramedy. It was supposed to be drama with the humor coming out in dialogue and behavior. But when Mya was the one who told me, I want you to make this brutally real, and I also want you to make this freaking hilarious. And I was like, oh no, that's quite a balancing act, and it's also risky for me. I don't know how I'm going to do this. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought it was appropriate, and it was the only way to go about doing this. There was, when I was, those times early on, even before the workshops, when I was hanging out we were all hanging out at the fast food joint in which we would
Jack in the Box.
Jack in the Box.
One of my favorite restaurants, and Taco Bell. Okay, keep going.
So yeah, we would be hanging out in Jack in the Box and hearing stories and meeting people. And I have to say, those hours that we spent in there were some of the funnest times I've ever had. I mean, in terms of just, the humor and wit, and I realized every night going home that I had just heard just some of the saddest stories, but at the same time it was just, we were all laughing for the last 3 hours, and I think we all use humor to cope. We all use humor to get by. But I think the women who are out there working, their hardships are even greater, and they have to use humor to even a greater degree to get by. And I witnessed that, and I thought the film wouldn't be honest unless we really infused that humor in and made this film as entertaining for women on the street as it would be for general audiences. So I'm really happy that we had that conversation and that Mya pushed me for that.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me in my interviews, so how's your life going now? And, my life is going wonderful. I mean, I'm here today with you guys. You know what I mean. I have a lovely career, a lovely home, and I'm engaged. But at the same time, I think about the people who are still out there doing it. I did sex work because I couldn't get a job. Before my transition, of course I could. I had many jobs and everything. I had a lot of skills and a lot of stuff. I actually caught people discriminating against me post-transition. But I didn't sue or anything because I just wanted a job. I filled out applications for 186 jobs in 1 month. Everything from cleaning all the way up to personal assistant and secretary. And even car dealerships, because I'm very gifted when it comes to cars. I can tell you how to sell a car. It's kind of funny because in a lot of interviews for selling cars, they say, "So what makes you think you can sell a car?" Well, I sold this body, so But of course, I didn't tell them that. But yeah, of course I can sell a car. I did 26 interviews in 1 month, and I did not get one job at all. And it was all due to the fact that I looked like a girl, but my name on my driver's license didn't say a girl's name or a girl's gender because I didn't have enough money to pay to get it done. First, I had owed $612 for a train ticket, and the state of California wouldn't let me change my name and gender until that was paid for. Plus, it's another $480 just, hi, Adam. Plus, it's yeah, my publicist, I love him. Another $480 to get the name changed, and then another $90 to post it in the paper, and that's a lot of money. I just got all that done. Now that I can afford it, but yeah, you have to think about all the people who cannot afford to get their stuff changed, or who cannot afford health care or to get hormones and stuff, so they're struggling. With their gender and everything, and, trying to transition alone is hard. And then you're trying to go and work at this employment agency, let's say Jack in the Box, and they're like, well, we found somebody who was a little bit better. Or, if it's for a cleaning job, we found somebody who was more skilled. Bitch, what the fuck you mean? Mopping a floor is simple, I can do that, Yeah, it's stuff like that.
And hitting on the hormones really quick, the women who can't afford hormones have to turn to the black market for hormones, and those are extremely dangerous.
In the introduction, Laverne talked about the importance of what she's been going through with the show and the attention that has been given to her in the show, and also with your work, all of your work on this movie. How important that is for people of color, trans people of color. I definitely don't want to ask this question to make you a poster child, but we're also in a particular moment where there's been a tremendous acceptance of this film, there's been a tremendous acceptance of Laverne, her work, that show, which is great. So how do you, Mya, reflect on this moment? This is the last question. I mean, how do you think about the moment we're in and what's going on culturally, and how people are talking about so much of the ideas and issues and thoughts provoked by this movie, by Vern and her show and other folks?
I think it's touched a lot of people and it's opened up a lot of people's eyes. But, you know, you have to also think about how many deaths have we had of transgender people? How many, Sean?
Yeah, it's
22 or
we're up
something
to
like that.
22.
Yeah, I had
and
to
those
ask
are
you 'cause I didn't
reported-
know
Those
shit.
are the reported numbers.
Yeah, I can't keep up.
Number 22, her name was Zella Ziana from Maryland on October 15th. And now we've almost reached the point where the murder rate for trans people in the U.S. has doubled since last year.
That's sad. That's really sad. And you know what? I was telling Laverne a little while ago, I don't believe in transphobia. I don't believe people are scared of transgender people. I believe people are just hateful because they want something to hate. And that's it. You know, and a lot of people use religion, you know, and I'm a very religious person. Like, I pray to God every single day. Like, I would not be here if it was not for him. But I can tell you this. If you told me that you were a tree today, then you're a fucking tree. You're an orange tree. You know, like, you're a tree. That I respect you. Okay, so what is your name? Orange? You know, like, that's you. Like, what I'm saying is, like, it doesn't matter because it's none of my business. First of all, what you're doing or who you're having sex with is not paying any of my bills, so why should I care? You know? So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's true. Like, or think about, you probably have the neighbor who's like, oh, well, she got that man over there today. You know, girl, you see her? Girl, mind your business, bitch. Like, you know, like, I just wish that people would mind their business and just respect everybody. I don't care who any of you are fucking or whatever gender you are. Like, I don't care because it's not bothering me. I just wish that people thought like that. God put me here for a few reasons, and that is to be the best person that I can be, to mind my business, and to honor and love him. And love everybody else. The Torah, the Quran, and the Bible do not teach hate at all. I've seen it. They don't teach hate. So I don't know where all this comes from with people. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Mya and Sean. Congratulations on all the film's success so far. May it continue, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.